Going on? What's going on? I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I want to welcome everybody as you come into the chat. I also want to remind everybody that this podcast is also on Spotify. So if you have Spotify, then just go look for my name on Spotify. You will find me there. Hello to everybody. Come on in. As you come in, check. I want to do an audio check and everything else. Make sure you guys can hear me okay. Let me know that I'm coming through all right. Give me a yes in the chat if my audio is good. Also, let me know you can see me and everything else. Hey, Travis Rogers, how are you? Shout out the city you're from. Let me know what city you're from. I want to talk to you guys about this interesting story that I read, and it had to do with what's going on in the economy in terms of the pandemic. The pandemic has really shifted this economy big time. I read some data that I think is going to really kind of knock your socks off. Once you hear it, you'll kind of know. And then what I'm going to do is give you an interpretation of this. As you guys know, when you come in this platform, my goal is to make you richer, to make you smarter, and to make you happier. So I'm going to not just tell you what happened. I'm going to tell you on this platform, you won't just find out what happened. You'll find out why it happened, and you'll also find that out from a professor who is smarter than 99% of the professors that you learned from in college who put you $100,000 in debt. Yes, I was damn good at what I did. I was one of the best on the planet. I was the only Black man on the planet to get a PhD in finance during the year 2002. I don't say that to brag. I say that to separate so that you don't think that I'm just some guy who's just speaking an opinion. I'm speaking based on decades of research and data and teaching college students at major universities, the Ohio State University, University of Kentucky, Syracuse University, Indiana University, all that. All right, so let's hop in. Thumbs up, share, subscribe. All right, so I don't know if anybody saw this, but I read an article that basically it said something that they could have been predicted, like with, as easy as day. It basically said that the U.S. economy shifted during the pandemic. That geographically speaking, the U.S. economy went from being heavily concentrated in the East Coast, West Coast, North, to now being an economy that is driven by the South. Driven by the South. It's like when the South came along and hip hop changed because Outkast and all these other groups, came along and suddenly the South rose up. Well, like our friend Ice Cube, who's been on this platform many times, he was talking about that with Joe Rogan. And he said that the South rose up. This is so interesting because this is a perfect analogy to hip hop. Basically, the South rose up, according to Cube, because after the Biggie Pac situation happened, and after stuff got out of control and people started getting killed, people got tired of it. People got tired of the East Coast, West Coast stuff. That's what Cube said. And I heard him on Joe Rogan, and I texted him after. I said, good interview, man. And he's still on his crusade against the gatekeepers. I don't know the deal with that. All I know is I support the big league. I know I support Ice Cube, and I like him. I consider him to be a friend. He's a great guy and a good brother. So anyway, and by the way, I see Nugent's asking, is this live? Yes, it is live, but even if it wasn't live, my voice is still the same. I don't change even if I'm not live. So anyway, so the reason that this reminds me of the East Coast, West Coast thing is because the pandemic was just stupid. It was just, I mean, how many of y'all felt like the pandemic was a complete, I'm not going to say shit. I'm trying not to cuss because, they took away my Instagram for talking too pro-Black. So I'm trying to use the right language here, but don't worry. I still got millions of followers on different platforms. We G's move in silence, just in case you don't know. G's who make G's move in silence. So we don't tell everybody everything we got going on. So you can't really cancel us. We're uncancelable. Just so you know, you can't cancel a soldier. But how many of y'all felt like the pandemic was just stupid? Give me a yes in the chat if you felt the pandemic was just a big propaganda ball full of extensive manipulation, people trying to control what you could say, what you could do, people telling lies. I felt lied to a lot during the pandemic. I felt like the public did not know who to trust. And between the crazy Republicans and the crazy Democrats, people that were looking for truth were just confused. It was just really hard during the pandemic. And let me tell you what happened during the pandemic. Well, one thing about economic theory and finance is confusion causes you to lose money. Chaos is a money loser. War and uncertainty is not good for your bank account. You will not make more money by creating more uncertainty. You will not make more money by creating more stress. You will not make more money by diluting trust. You will not make more money by harming the environment in which money is made. Money is a little bit, this is really funny to y'all. It's great. It's interesting. I just spent the whole day doing a training in Seattle on my book. My new book is called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. And one of the things I explained is that most of the theory that determines how money grows it comes from biology. Most of the equations that we use, because I can show you on a chalkboard with math how money grows, most of those equations come right out of biology. And what do you know about a plant? Well, let me ask you this. Does a plant grow in toxic soil? No. Does the plant grow very well when the weather's all bad and chaotic? No. Does the plant grow in an unstable environment? No. Well, during the pandemic, that's what you had. It was unstable. People didn't know what to do. People didn't know where to go. People didn't know how to handle things. And it cost money. And I'm going to explain the dynamics of how that worked. Before I do that, please take 1 second, hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. You're watching drboystv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. And I want to, I see a nice, cute little comment in here from Mr. Mark Edwards. He says, B1, Dr. Watkins, stick with the financial advice. I love you. B1 to you too, brother, but don't tell me to shut up and dribble. Never tell me what to talk about on my platform. I don't go to Mark Edwards' channel, brother. I love you. I don't go to your channel and tell you what to talk about. I don't say, Mark, you got a cowboy hat on and a horse. Only talk about horsing. Only talk about cowboy hats. Do I do that, Mark? Do I do that to you, Mark? No, I don't. I let you have something that Black men deserve, which is freedom of speech. So let me keep reading this comment. He says, all the other stuff is a distraction. Yeah, but it's a fun distraction. And I like to talk about Black people. And as y'all know, Black people are half crazy. And also, to be an adequate economic teacher, you have to talk about Black culture. Do y'all understand? Give me a yes if you follow what I'm saying. If you don't talk, and by the way, Mark, I love you for your comment. Thank you for your advice. But to be honest with you, it sounds like a lot of people that I've known throughout my life who've always wanted to help me. And they would give me advice to say, well, don't say that. That's too controversial. Don't say this. Don't say that. And honestly, I ain't gonna lie. I've never listened to that. Ever since I was writing articles at the University of Kentucky, and everybody on campus read my articles. The people that knew me from that time, they know I was the most well-known person on the campus, including the basketball players. My basketball team was really good. But let me just tell you, my whole life, I've had people say, don't do that. Just stick to finance. Play it safe. Play it safe. Let me tell you a little secret about playing it safe. If God tells you that, I'm gonna look over here so you can see. Am I looking? You look at me in the eye? If God tells you to do something, you need to have enough faith to follow the damn instruction. When God sends you on a path, you need to understand the assignment and move forward without fear. Do you get what I'm saying? Are y'all listening to me right now? So when I get the assignment from God, I don't get the assignment from man. I don't get the assignment from Mark. I love you, Mark Edwards, by the way. I'm not picking on you, brother. I love you. I promise you. I can't listen to that. God put me on this earth for a purpose. I am 100% purpose driven. Can't stop, won't slow down. I did this when I was 25. I'm going to do it when I'm 65. Because you might love me, you might hate me, but you cannot say I'm not consistent. That's it. That's where I'm at. Does it work all the time? No. Sometimes it blows up in my face. Sometimes I say something and I bad, crazy things happen, but I don't care. I'm not scared. We're going to keep this moving. And also, I have 100% confidence in my economic intelligence, and I have confidence in my thinking ability. So I will debate anybody from the most highly educated person on the planet to the loudest street Negroes you can find, because I done seen them all. I grew up with the street dudes. My daddy was a street dude. I know the streets, man. People act like because you're a professor, you don't know the streets. Man, get out of here with that nonsense. I was born in the project, son. I know more about the streets than a lot of so-called street dudes do. And I know enough about the streets to not want your kids to be in the streets. Okay. So this is why we're going to learn economics. This is why we're going to make ourselves better. This is why we're going to elevate. This is why we're going to be great again. So let me get back to the topic at hand. Thank you, Mark, for your wonderful comment. I appreciate you, brother. And I wanted to just speak on that just because sometimes you got to make some clarity, and I hope it's okay, everybody. Because like Mark said, he actually is right that it can be a distraction, and I completely distracted from the conversation by throwing that little interlude in. But I hope it was worthwhile because I need y'all to understand where this is coming from. You're not talking to a guy who has any intention of being a regular guy. My goal as a dude is not to be a regular dude. My goal as a human being is not to be a regular person. My goal is to say things that will make our community better. And I talk about Black culture all the time because it doesn't matter how much I teach you about economics. It doesn't matter how much I tell you about the secrets to finance and all. I can tell you all those things. I know these things. I've been knowing them for 30 years. If you don't have the right culture, if you don't clean up your culture, Black people, if you don't deal with your baby mama-itis, if you don't deal with the toxicity in your hip hop music, if you don't deal with the way white folks done train you to raise your children in an impossible, horrific way, if you don't deal with your anti-intellectualism, then it won't matter. You'll never build wealth because wealth does not grow in unstable environments, just like a plant. I could tell you everything there is to know about planting a tomato, but if you're trying to plant a tomato in the middle of a bowl of piss, that tomato is not going to grow. If it's in the desert in a bowl of piss, give me a yes if you understand what I'm saying. Give me yeses so I can move on from this analogy because I need y'all to see what I'm saying. You can learn everything there is to know. You could be the best botanist on the planet. But if you're trying to grow tomatoes in a bowl of piss in the middle of the desert, those tomatoes will not grow. Okay. So that's the thing. So I'm not just trying to change your mind. I'm trying to change the environment. It's a big assignment, but God told me to do it. So I'm going to try. All right, so let's keep going here. Thumbs up, share, subscribe. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. You're watching drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. And I don't get to mention it much, but I actually have this book. Feel free to go look it up on Amazon. It's called Financial Lovemaking, or you can get it on my website. You can go to boycewatkins.com or whatever. It's all about love, money, and relationships. And it was a really fun book to write. So feel free to take a look at that. I also have a whole series of books called Black American Money. And I wrote these books over a decade ago, but they're very relevant to understanding economics, how they work in society today. And so feel free to go to Amazon and take a look at those books. All right. So, and I'm very proud to say we've sold over 100,000 books and we never had a book deal. We never had anything mainstream. We did this on our own because we're good at what we do. All right. So here's the deal. Let me tell you what's been going on. So at the start of the story, I was talking to you guys about this article I read that says that the heart of it's from the Daily Mail. I'm going to read from that one. It says heart of the U.S. economy moves south. 6 states in the sunbelt now contribute more to the national gross domestic product than perennial powerhouse, the Northeast, after a $100 billion wealth migration during the pandemic. They said that Florida, Texas, Georgia, North and South Carolina, and Tennessee are now outperforming the Washington, New York, Boston corridor. Let me ask y'all a question. How many of you know at least one person who during the pandemic said, I'm sick of this, I'm out? How many of y'all know at least one person who during the pandemic said, I don't want to live in New York no more. I'm going to Atlanta. A lot of y'all moved to Atlanta. My buddy Andre C. Hatchett, who runs the mobile notary school, great brother. Love this guy. Been known him for years. He moved from New York to the South. Julian Gordon, who's our dean of real estate in the Black Business School. He runs the Freedom School. He went from New York down south. He's actually the only person I know, celebrity or otherwise, who has helped Black people acquire $250 million in real estate. So let's clap for that because we talk about the celebrities and what they're doing. But this man in my book, those are my celebrities, the ones who are putting wealth in the hands of Black people, not the ones who are just shining people on TV. Anyway, how many of you know people who've done that? There have been a lot of people who've done that. A lot of people just said, man, I can't take this anymore. Look at what they did to you during the pandemic. It was absolutely terrible. They were taking people's jobs because they didn't get the jab. They said, no jab, no job. Lots of people lost their jobs. They were ostracizing people for not getting the jab, making fun of people, saying you can't, your family members should hate you and shouldn't invite you to the family reunion or to the family picnic. That was terrible. They were lying to you. Politicians would say one thing, then they change their tune, then they change it back, and then they say they never said what they said before, and then next thing you know, the solution they said was the critical solution. It doesn't actually work, and it was a bunch of crap, man. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. So a lot of people just said, man, I just need some clarity. I need some certainty. Let me tell you what me and my wife did during this time. My wife, I love her, and I talk about my wife because I think that as Black men, we got to talk about our women that love us. So there's my wife, and I look at her face because she's so beautiful to me, and I think she's so smart, and she just reminds me of everything I love about the Black woman in general. You got to get you a Black woman next to you. I don't even blame the white boys who are trying to sweep up these Black girls because Black women are the best. Y'all just don't know what you got. Anyway, so my wife and I during the pandemic, we we were trying to get information. You know, she and I are both scientists. She has a PhD in social work. My PhD is in finance, and so we're scholars. You know, we're thinkers. We don't believe something just because it was on CNN. We don't believe something just because it's on MSNBC, because we know how propaganda works. We know how the media loves to lie. And so we would just watch C-SPAN. We would watch C-SPAN because C-SPAN would tell us what the person actually said. MSNBC, Fox News, and CNN would give us their spin on what the person said. They would give us their interpretation of what the person said. I don't want the interpretation. I don't want selective quotes. I don't want little sound bites. I want to hear what they said. Democrat, Republican, didn't matter. I just wanted to hear what they said because it's life or death. You're trying to figure out, is this serious or not? Could this virus kill us? And the conclusion was that, yeah, it could kill some people. You know, yeah, you 78 years old, you overweight and diabetic and got a heart problem, you better be up in the house, masked up, and doing whatever you can to protect yourself, whatever that may be. But we also had a teenage son who was, very depressed and sad because he had to stay in the house the whole time. You know, and he didn't understand why, and we couldn't tell him why. We couldn't help him understand why. You know, we had a mother-in-law who was mortified to leave the house. Didn't see, she's 80. We didn't see her for 2 years because she's scared to leave the house. So it was just a shit show, to be honest with you. I'm trying not to cuss, but I gotta say it. That's what it was. And so what happened was here's what we did during the pandemic, and people thought we were crazy when we did it. We said we're not gonna stop living our lives over a virus that is only gonna, take out less than 0.1% of the population. It's just not worth it. It's not worth the trade-off. So you know what we did? We did stuff that had some of our relatives calling us crazy. We took a trip to Mexico because Mexico needed money, and they were very happy to offer very cheap trips during Mexico. Anybody else travel during the pandemic? How many of y'all just said, to hell with it, I'm gonna get these $50 flights, whatever, right? That's what we did. We got on airplanes. We went around the world. We went down to Florida. We got a yacht and took the kids on a yacht. And I'm gonna tell you, when there's something about people having money where they forgot that the virus was happening. Like it was right in the middle of the pandemic, and the whole crew treated us like we were like there was no virus. It was really interesting. I was kind of nervous. I was like, okay, we shouldn't be socially distanced, blah, blah. I guess that didn't apply for rich people, and it didn't apply in Florida. Going to Florida was like going to another country. I remember going down to Florida, and we went because we went twice. We went again because Chicago weather is just horrible in the wintertime. So we go down to Florida, and this time we stayed in this place, one of these houses or something. It was an Airbnb, and it was like a gated community. And I remember meeting again, height of the pandemic. I met this like hillbilly white guy, right? Everybody's scared of like white people from the South because, the liberals tell you that they're all racist and they all wake up wanting to kill Black people. And I'm from the South, so I just know that's not true. I know that we have crazy people, we have bad people, but most of the people, if you don't mess with them, they don't mess with you. So this guy's looking at me. He's probably looking at me because I'm Black, and he's wondering like, what's this guy doing in our neighborhood, right? And I just, and I don't get offended by that. I don't get offended by what white people think about me, to be honest. I just don't walk around constantly wondering if white people like me or not. I like myself. And I think that that's a mental trick that they put on you to keep you from making progress. And so because white people liking you doesn't make you a better person, you liking you makes you a better person. Give me a yes if you understand what I'm saying. So the guy's like, hey, can I help you? And I'm like, we're staying in the house over there. And he's like, oh, okay. And so this guy in the middle of the pandemic, when nobody was touching anybody, he reaches out and he just shakes my hand like it's nothing. And I was nervous. I shook his hand and I was like, we're in a pandemic, right? And I remember noticing how when you went south, this goes back to the economics that we were talking about earlier. I noticed it was really shocking to me how in Chicago, everybody was scared. In Chicago, Nothing was happening. In Chicago, everything's shutting down. Chicago, we planned to get married in 2020. Me and my wife put a grip of money down to rent this place. It was the same place the Obamas got married, and I forgot what it's called. It's some park or some, I don't know, some club. I forgot. Anyway, so I know the Obamas got married there, so I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. Anyway, we put all this money down, and we lost. We lost our venue because Chicago just completely shut down. So here's what happened, and this is why $100 billion in wealth got transferred to the South. Basically, what happened was I remember with my wife, we were like, screw this. We want to live our lives. We don't want Dr. Fauci telling us if we can enjoy ourselves. We don't want people telling us to stay away from our loved ones. And so we just said, okay, we got to get married at some point, because if I don't, this beautiful lady, I don't want her to leave me. So let me go ahead and lock this down. Let me go ahead and sign the deal, get it signed and sealed. So I said, let's go to Texas. Let's get as much of our deposit back from Chicago as we can get, and let's take our $100,000 wedding and go down to Texas. Yeah, we did. We spent money on the wedding because I love my wife and we could afford it, and it's an honor to be married to her. So my point is to say that I remember thinking, I called my wife today and I said, just our family alone put a ton of money into the South. We left Chicago and took that money we were going to spend in Chicago, and we spent it in Texas because Chicago was tripping. There was instability. We didn't want to lose our money. We took the money we might have spent in the North or the West, and we went down South for those vacations because we wanted to get away from from all the chaos that was going on up north. So what has happened now is that millions and millions of people left the Northwest. And then on top of that, you had remote work kick in. You had people that lived in New York City who moved to New York City and dealt with the stinky streets and the rude people. Not that everybody in New York is rude. I love my New York people. And we're going to do something in Brooklyn. And I love y'all in Brooklyn, by the way. We get mad support in Brooklyn. So I love my New Yorkers, but you know what it is. Y'all know New York is a tough spot. It's like a concrete jungle. Everything's overpriced. It's not an easy place to live. And they said, to hell with this, we're getting out of here. So they left and they went to Texas, they went to Florida, they went to Georgia. And as a result, $100 billion in income and wealth transferred south. It's never coming back. This is the first time, I think, in U.S. history, or since before the Civil War, when they had slaves and stuff. I got to look up the data, but I believe this is the first time since the Civil War where the South contributed more to the American gross domestic product than the North. That is huge. That is absolutely huge. Now, do me a favor. Please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. You're watching drboystv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. And since we are, in the rebuild phase with our social media, if you want to follow me on Instagram, my Instagram is the Black Financial Channel. So if you find the Black Financial Channel, it'll say the Dr. Boyce Watkins Black Financial Channel when you get there. And I will put lots and lots and lots of financial information there that'll make you better and smarter. Also, if you want to get Dr. Boyce profit alerts, where I pick stocks that I like, that I'm invested in, and let you know what I'm investing in that week, you can text the word stock to 31996. Text stock to 31996. This is important, not just because you want to make more money, but it's also important because we have to have multiple ways to stay in touch with each other, just in case Instagram starts tripping. And don't forget, the All Black National Convention is happening October 20th in Atlanta, and again in the South. And we are going, and we had our other convention. Now that I'm thinking about it, we spent $250,000 on our convention in 2021. And again, we went to the South because I said and we were supposed to be in the North. See, this is yet another example of wealth being lost because the North was tripping. So we took our money that we were going to spend in New York, because we've been planning to have a convention in New York for the longest time. And we said, we don't know if they're going to get scared and shut everything down. So we took our $250,000 spend and spent it down in Florida. And I know that for some of you that are Democrats and get into the whole Democrat Republican thing, you think Florida's terrible, this scary place, where bad things are always going to happen to Black people. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying it hasn't happened to us. I can say that we had our convention. Everybody loved it. It was so much fun. So, by the way, if you want to come to the convention this year, just go to allblacknationalconvention.com. We're also looking for Black-owned businesses that want publicity, that want marketing. You can be a sponsor or a vendor. If you're a sponsor, we will sponsor you on this platform. We will talk about you on this platform. If you want to be a vendor, you can vend and make money. There are people there that want to buy Black Black. So because we're building the Black economy, we're getting this done. All right, so let me hop back in and finish up this topic. So I'm gonna read a little bit more. This from the Daily Mail, and it says the heart of the economy has moved south. $100 billion moved from the north to the south during the pandemic. It says 2/3 of all job growth in the country is now concentrated in the southeast, and it is home to 10 of the 15 fastest growing cities. So it says 6 of the fastest growing sunbelt states in the south now contribute more to the U.S. GDP than the northeast for the first time. Florida, Texas, Georgia, North and South Carolina, and Tennessee are now outperforming the Washington, New York, Boston corridor, new government data shows. The data only goes back to the 1990s and is likely the first time the South is outgunning the North in such an extreme way. The switch began during the pandemic and is only gaining momentum, according to Bloomberg. A flood of electric vehicle factories and battery plants has helped bring $100 billion in new income to the Southeast in 2020 and 2021 alone, with the Northeast conversely losing $60 billion during that time span. So basically, the South is rising again, and it's kind of a weird thing to say, right? Because we know the South has that stigma because y'all had that whole thing called slavery, and we still mad about that. Y'all still owe some reparations. And speaking on reparations, one of the things about reparations that's interesting that I think you should remember is that it's not just the government that owes you reparations. The government wasn't the only beneficiary of Black slave labor. You also had a lot of corporations that benefited from Black slave labor. You had a lot of entities and institutions. You had churches like the Catholic Church. Georgetown University was the subject of a whole Wall Street Journal report where they were trying to make amends with reparations, and they were just kind of on some BS. A lot of people accused them of manipulating the descendants of slavery when it was actually the sale of slaves. And check this out, y'all. This happened all the time. It was the sale of slaves that saved Georgetown University. Did y'all hear what I said? That literally it was the sale of slaves. Like the school was about to go bankrupt. And this is why you got to stick with your little business. Your little business that's struggling and you think it ain't never going to be nothing. This is why you got to stick it out, because you don't know what you're creating. You don't know what you're building. So Georgetown was worse off than a lot of your businesses. It was in the toilet. It was about to go bankrupt. They couldn't take any more students. They couldn't handle any more work. And the way and what saved them was selling Black people. So there were people who dug this up, and as a result of digging this up, they said, you owe us reparations. So Georgetown University tried to do the right thing. And unfortunately, here's what happened. And this is something you got to be really careful during the reparations conversation. They got some guy who was kind of I call them Negro gatekeepers. And they got this gatekeeper guy who had a foot in both worlds. He was a former corporate executive and an athlete. So but he also was a descendant of some of the families that were sold during that transaction. And so this guy was supposed to be negotiating on behalf of the Black people and the university. He was kind of an intermediary. And according to the people that filed their lawsuit against him, they said he stopped doing that. They said he came back with a plan that none of them had signed off on. He came back with programs and all this other crap that they want to offer you instead of actually giving them money. And the family said, we did not ask for this. We're very upset about this. We're not only are we walking away from this, but we're going to sue you. People walked away. They were in a Zoom meeting. The last meeting, they claimed that they were in a Zoom meeting. He had the audio turned off so that people couldn't even talk. And he's sitting on there telling them how wonderful this new plan is. And then he starts at the end. Again, this is where the Black pastor has been used to manipulate Black people for a long time. He starts a prayer and he's like, oh, Father God, we're going to have Judases among us. Please stop the Judases from gaining any power in this space. So he literally gets to the point where he's calling people who don't go along with his BS plan Judases. So people got really upset and they just logged out of the Zoom meeting and filed a lawsuit. So long story short, it is, it's one of those things where with reparations, you're really going to have to play hardball. And I don't know if we're positioned to do that. I honestly get a little nervous about the reparations conversation because the wrong people are going to be leading it. It's going to be some of these gatekeepers, and the gatekeepers are not going to do a good job. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. All right, so let me show you something. I just found this chart that I want to share with you that shows just how the wealth got transferred from the north to the south. And why the South, unfortunately, there was an economic shift. The pandemic was not just a shift in wealth from the north to the south. It was a shift in wealth from the rich to the poor. The tech giants got extremely wealthy because they were able to benefit tremendously from the pandemic. You saw but here's the other thing too. I was just in Seattle giving a speech, and in contrast to the South, that's kind of booming and taking off from all the money that was transferred during the pandemic. Guess what's happening in a lot of and admittedly, these are liberal cities. Y'all liberals, y'all got to deal with this because I'm not liberal or conservative. I'm just black. But literally, a lot of these cities are just screwed up. In Seattle, everybody I talked to told me that their homeless problem is out of control. They said one person said it's almost like downtown has been taken over by homeless people and people that are zombies, basically, because they've been taking that fentanyl drug. So literally, a lot of these cities that used to be safe, they're not safe. I remember I had to tell them. I said the last time I was in Seattle, I did not feel safe. I was in a situation with a homeless person, and the guy appeared to be really aggressive, and I thought I was going to have to whoop some ass, possibly go to jail to protect my daughter, because you messing with me and my daughter, we gonna have a problem. And that happened in Seattle. And during that time, a guy walked up to me from behind, and I was feeling very on edge, and I was about to turn around and hit him because I didn't know what was going on. And he was like, "No, Dr. Boyce, Dr. Boyce." He knew me, he recognized me, and what this guy told me was he said the homeless problem is out of control. He said, "I work with the homeless, and it's very, very hard to do my job because the city was kind of basically abandoned during the pandemic. They defunded the police. They did all these things that, were in theory okay, right? You had to reform the police, but when you're talking about defunding the police, you're living in a crazy fantasy land. So now you go to some of these cities, you go, give me a yes if you know what I'm talking about. Give me a yes if you're living in these cities and you've seen some of this. Go to San Francisco and tell me if San Francisco ain't changed since the pandemic. Go to Portland and tell me how Portland's changed during the pandemic. Go to, again, I was just in Seattle. Go to Seattle and look at how Seattle has changed during the pandemic. So basically, these are the consequences of what I think are bad economic policies. And I just hate to see it, because I think you can achieve your goals with some degree of moderation, some degree of foresight, some degree of balance, some degree of discipline. And we don't support balance in our society. People get on the bandwagon of extremism, and extremism will typically do harm to a society. All right. So anyway, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. You're watching drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. This podcast is on Spotify. So if you look me up on Spotify, you can find me there. Also, blackkeystogreatness.com is where you can go if you'd like for free. This is totally free. You can join my life class. I have a really good life class where I break down how to be successful. A lot of people were asking me about this, so I created the class, and it had a cost to it. And I was like, I don't want to charge money for this because I want to help you succeed. So if you'd like to join that, just go to blackkeystogreatness.com. You'll also get access to the free Powernomics training that we do in the Black Business School. We train millions of people in Powernomics. We introduced Kanye West to Powernomics. He loves it. We introduced Ice Cube to Powernomics. He reached out to talk to Dr. Anderson. People like Diddy and others have talked about it. And I think that Powernomics should be the anthem. That should be kind of the theme of what we're doing as Black people. We really want to fight for power. We really want to be strong. We really want to go get it. We really want to be number one. I'm not fighting for equality. I'm not fighting for inclusion. I'm not fighting to be acknowledged by white folks. I want them to be begging us for our acknowledgement. I want us to be setting the standard. I want us to not just meet the bar. I want us to be the bar. Do you understand what I'm saying? I believe that we can have a world, especially with B1 children who are being trained on wealth at an early age, who are being trained right now. In 30 years, these kids can be the leaders on the planet. Like, they can literally be the people that other people look to, the same way they look to Black people to play basketball or to sing and dance and rap. I want them to be looking to Black children that are going to be adults in 30 years. In the year 2053, they're going to be, that 5-year-old is going to be a 35-year-old. I want people to look at Black people and say, man, how did they do it? How did they acquire so much wealth? Their families are so strong. They're out here making moves economically. None of them, their kids never have to work for anybody. Well, where did that come from? Well, that came from back in 2023 when we were talking about basic things like the $5 a day investing plan that allows you to get ahead. So every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern is totally free in the Black Business School. You can join us for Powernomics training. I'm reading directly from the book. We've been doing this for years, and we've trained millions of people on this. So feel free to go to blackkeystogreatness.com. I know that was a long statement about that, but I really want you to understand the importance of what we're doing. And in the Black-owned business, I want to feature real quick is a business in Atlanta called Elevated Wellness, and their phone number is right there. The sister Janae is a great lady. She did a great job. And so if you want to go to a Black-owned spa and you happen to be in Atlanta, the number's right there on the screen. It's 404-936-5691. That's 404-936-5691. All right. Okay, boys, finish up. Let's get this done. Let's get this cracking. All right. So earlier today, we were talking about this wealth transfer. We were talking about the fact that $100 billion in wealth moved from the north to the south because the south was too extreme in their policies. So let me see if I can share my screen and not mess it up because I tend to do that. All right. So here's a graphic that it's not so big, but I'm going to sort of tell you what the gist of it is and what's happening here on the screen. Basically, it's showing that right now. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. It's showing that right now that right there, that was from a previous pocket. See, I told y'all. See what happens when I start hitting buttons and I start messing up. I end up screwing everything up. Damn, boys, what are you doing? Sheesh. If you're listening on Spotify, just know like I just did something stupid. That's why I'm yelling at myself. But anyway, so on that chart, which I'll pull this back up in a minute, on that chart, basically what it's showing is that in the north, the total GDP is about 4.4 trillion, and in the south, the total GDP is about 4.6 trillion. So this is kind of the point where one side is sort of passing the other side, and you're starting to see that that in the south there are more economic opportunities than there are in the north. It's also showing, if you look here, you see that the 4.44 trillion represents pretty much 4 or 5 states, or actually more than 4 or 5. Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Pennsylvania, New York, and Maine. And they're all blue. And look at how tiny those states are. Sheesh. Yeah. It's like you got all these people just cramped in this little space. It's kind of weird. Like being from the south, it seems weird. And then you go down south and you got big Texas over here, which literally all these little blue states could fit into Texas. And then you got Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. So it's almost like the SEC football versus like these Division III schools. But anyway, you're seeing a lot more wealth being created in the South than there is in the North. I think that this trend is going to continue. I think that this set a momentum in place that is that literally is something different from anything that we've seen in the last couple hundred years. I also think that what's going to occur is you're going to see you're just going to see people starting to realize little things that they maybe didn't realize before that people from the South have always known, which is that New York is crowded and expensive, and properties cost way too much. So they come down south, they go to Atlanta, they find out that for the amount of money they would have had to spend on a house in New York, they can buy 3 houses in Atlanta. And so they're going to find out other things like being warm is for a lot of people more fun than being cold. They're going to find out that nice people are more fun to hang out with than rude people. So ultimately, now somebody says, please stay in the north, don't come to the south. You know what's funny? My father said the same thing. This is literally 30 years ago when I was arguing with one of my friends. I went up to Boston for this so-called dream job I used to have with General Electric. And that's when I learned that I didn't want to work for anybody because I thought it was my dream job, but it really wasn't. It was actually a nightmare. I had this really evil boss and it was terrible. I didn't know what I was doing. And it was just bad. I just didn't like it. Anyway, I remember I was arguing with my friend from, I think he was from, he wasn't from Boston. He's actually from Brooklyn, I think. And he was talking about how the South is lame and there's nothing down there. And I was like, no, the South is actually pretty cool. The South is much better than this. And I told my father, I said, yeah, I'm trying to explain to him that the South is pretty good. That, that living in the South is better than the North. And my father said, no, don't tell him. He said, just tell them to stay up there. So, but I don't think that's true. I think there's a lot of good people in the North. And I'm just telling you, I think that generally speaking, for anybody that is trying to make your next move, have an open mind. Have an open mind. Like, don't think that just because you grew up somewhere, that means you're supposed to stay there. Like, you don't have to stay where you were born or where you live now. There's lots of other places. It's just like dating. If you're in a relationship and you're not happy, What makes you think you can only be with that person? Like there's so many other people, especially if you're young. There's so many other fish in the sea. And I wish I'd known that when I was like 21 or 22. I would have probably made different moves in my life at that time, because sometimes we think that because we pick something, we got to stick with it. But you ain't got to stick with it. Stick with happiness. How about that? How about being happy? So that's the goal. That's what I want for you. All right. So effectively, let me see here. What else am I seeing here? So what they're also saying here is that 2/3 of all job growth in the country is now concentrated in the Southeast. Tennessee and Florida increased their GDP by 3.5% in the last financial quarter, which is going to help them in the next election because I think they're going to be able to come in and make the argument that, look at our state, look at our economics in our state, and look at so-and-so state, and they're struggling, we're doing well. The change in economic activity reflects the migration of workers to the sunbelt in search of better weather and more space after experiencing the cramped conditions of cities like New York during lockdowns. Southern states also lifted lockdown measures faster, luring away people living in the Northeast who were tired of draconian virus rules. And I just want to ask, I'm wondering who feels like that was worth it. Like, who feels like that was worth it? I mean, like I know that people don't want to admit that they're wrong, but I'm sitting here thinking you lost your whole economy because of this. Like now you're commercial real estate. Do you know how bad commercial real estate is doing in some of these major cities now? Do you know how screwed some of the major investors feel when you go to cities like Seattle and there's like homeless people and dope addicts in front of your building and there's nothing and the mayor doesn't even care? It's a terrible feeling. So I almost argue that sometimes common sense ends up going out the window. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think that with this virus, it was very important to be careful. I did not have a problem wearing a mask. I did not have any problem social distancing. I do believe in taking care of your immune system. What I did not like was the other $100 billion transfer that occurred when pharmaceutical companies conspired with the government to mandate that you put money in their pocket. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like literally, you have pharmaceutical companies that got the backing of the federal government and all of its military power to basically let them come in and rob the piggy bank. They were able to rob society. They were able to basically force you to buy their product. I mean, do you understand how sinister that is? This is why I'm not a hardcore capitalist. I don't think capitalism is as evil as some of my socialist and Marxist friends think. But when they criticize capitalism, I don't argue with them. I say, yeah, you're right. Capitalism is terrible in some situations, particularly in the healthcare system. The healthcare system is a great example of capitalism gone bad. In fact, let me do a quick Google search. Please hit the thumbs up button. Thumbs up, share, subscribe if you haven't done it yet. Let me the best healthcare in the world. Let me see. The United States has the most expensive healthcare in the world. Let's see if all that money you're paying is worth it. Let's see if you're getting a good return on investment. What do y'all think is going to happen? Tell me what y'all think. I'm looking the data up now. I'm on some website called wisevoter.com, but I don't know. I can't validate this data. I'm looking for a ranking. Here we go. Here's a ranking. The number one healthcare system on earth, according to this site, is Belgium. Japan is number 2, Sweden, Switzerland, Norway, Germany. The United States has to be in there somewhere, right? I mean, we spend the most money, right? Because I bet if I do a ranking, I'm about to be a little bit of an asshole right now, but I got to do this. All right, so let's see. Most expensive healthcare in the world. Let's see what's the most expensive. Let's see. The United States per capita healthcare spending is the highest on earth. Get it? I bet y'all didn't expect that, did you? All right. In 2021, the U.S. spent $12,318 per person on healthcare and services related to it. Now, given that we have the most expensive healthcare in the world, we should have the best health, like highest quality, don't you think? Like this, I mean, all right, so let's see here. All right, boys, don't be such a jerk. Let's just read this. Okay, so let's see. Number 3. Let's see. We got to be in the top 10. I mean, we have to be. We're spending so much money. In the top 10, we have to be. All right. Switzerland number 4, Norway number 5, Germany number 6, Iceland number 7, Finland number 8, France number 9, Malta number 10, Denmark number 11. I'm getting tired, y'all. I still haven't seen the United States. The United Kingdom, number 12. Cuba, number 13. Luxembourg, number 14. The Netherlands, number 15. Austria, Ireland, Czech Republic, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Australia. Man, I'm getting tired. The United States is not even on the list yet. How long do you think I'm gonna keep going? Let's start guessing. Let's start playing the numbers. I saw a video about numbers runners back in the 1930s and how many black people, like, I think they called them policy bankers. Right? They had that was big business, by the way, back in like the 1930s or whatever. Anyway, so let's run the numbers. What ranking do y'all predict the U.S. healthcare system is going to be when I get done counting? I'm gonna keep going. All right, so let's see here. So put your number in the chat. Put your guess in the chat. Number 20 is Taiwan, Australia, South Korea, Uruguay, Italy, Slovenia. We don't even beat Slovenia. Israel, Belarus, Argentina, New Zealand. Anybody guess? What's your guess? Come on. The United States comes in at number 30 on the list. Number 30. So let me give you the context here to understand why you got screwed during the pandemic. You pay the most on earth for healthcare, more than any other country on the planet. You pay over $12,000 per person for your healthcare, yet you, despite having the most expensive healthcare on the planet by a complete long shot, you actually have the 30th best healthcare system on the planet. You don't even beat Slovenia. And then on top of that, this healthcare system, this highly inadequate, overpriced healthcare system, conspired with the government to basically rob the piggy bank and force you to buy their product. They came in to you with gunpoint and said, put this thing in your body. It's not been tested. We don't know what the hell's going on, but we do know that it's going to make us a hell of a lot of money. So put this in your ass and hope for the best. And then when people start flopping over from strokes, heart attacks, whatever the other side effects might be, we're going to have plausible deniability because we're also going to conspire with our partner in crime called the United States government to make laws that say you can't sue us for any side effects. Well, why? Well, because it's an emergency. It's a time of war. It's a crisis. So because it's a crisis, anything goes. We have to get through this crisis because this is a time of war. Do y'all understand the hustle here? This is the economic hustle. This is what it is. This is the country you live in. This is what they did during the pandemic. And so part of the side effect is that a lot of the cities that went along with the hustle, a lot of the cities that were ostracizing people, because they didn't do what they were told, firing people from their jobs, forcing people to go along with their program, with their agenda, those cities are being hit the hardest economically. Those cities are the ones that are losing wealth to the South. And this is going to have massive political implications. Don't think that DeSantis and Trump aren't going to bring this up during the next election. People are tired of it, man. And I know you live in an idealistic world where you think you can socially engineer your way out of every problem, but it pissed me off. Not because I disagree with what people were doing, but because I don't want you telling me what to do, especially if I'm 52 years old. You know, I'm a black man. I'm probably overweight because I have a lot of muscle mass, but I also got some fat. And, you know, and I'm not dead. Most of my friends are not dead. So, but you're telling me all these stories about dead people, hoping that I'm going to be scared enough to shut down my whole entire life, and I'm just not going to do that. You know, and so anyway, this is what I saw. This is what I see. The economic consequences are very real. They're not just temporary. They're going to be very permanent. I think that 20 years from now, you're going to see seismic shifts in the economy that started during the pandemic. I think that, and here's the other thing that's scary too, is that I have heard rumblings that there may be another pandemic on the way. And what's going to happen, unfortunately, is that if this comes along and it's more serious than the previous one, meaning the death rate is higher, a lot of people are going to get hurt because a lot of people aren't going to take it seriously. Why? Well, because they don't trust the government. Why don't they? Well, because the government was lying like crazy and it was terrible. So I don't know. Maybe I'll get another platform banned for saying that, but I don't regret it and I can't help it. I got to tell the truth. So I hope this helps you. I hope this conversation was good for you. I think this speaks to how economics is important, but you cannot let your economic or let your greed destroy you. You also can't let the greed of others manipulate you, because it is a lot of capitalist greed that creates the slavery that many Black people feel. A lot of capitalist greed is what causes us to end up in these situations where your kids are not reaching their potential. You know, the school system, the failing school system, where they're training all these kids to go work for white people. That's built off capitalist greed. Black people ain't making no money from that. You're the commodity, though. They need your children to show up to school so they can get money, because they get money. They get a few dollars for every child that shows up every day, and so they're like, we need you there because of the money, but we don't really care about you like that, right? So it's similar to slavery, very similar to slavery, where Black people have always been a commodity for the economic benefit of others. We've always been like KFC chickens on a farm. The more chickens you have, the more money you make. And so what I'm saying is, stop letting people manipulate you like that. If somebody's going to get some economic benefit off your existence, it might as well be you. It should be you. All right. So anyway, God bless you guys. Thank you so much for listening. And if I offended anybody with this conversation, I cannot apologize, because I'm just being me. I can't help it. So just a reminder, my new book is called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. It is available on Amazon. So if you'd like to go take a look, it's also at boycewatkins.com. If you'd like to get a copy there, you can even get an autographed copy at boycewatkins.com. And also, don't forget, the All Black National Convention is happening October 20th in Atlanta. If you'd like to join us at the convention, the energy is really good. What we do is we are a think tank. We gather the best and the brightest from our community in every area, from relationships to health to crypto to real estate, all the way across the board, about 20 different topics for over 40 experts. So you're not just going to learn a lot, but it's also like a big old family reunion. So you are going to have fun. Everybody loves the convention. So if you're interested in joining us, or you'd like to be a vendor, sponsor, you have Black-owned business, you want to promote it there, just go to allblacknationalconvention.com. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. And last but not least, I have to share this. I hope you allow me to share this. Since my Instagram page is gone, my Real Boyce Watkins page, it no longer exists. I got lawyers on it, and I have other people reaching out. Maybe it'll come back, maybe it won't. But either way, though, we got to be prepared. So in order to be prepared, I'm going to give you a text. Just text the word stock to 31996. Once you get on the list, I will not just send you a stock selection that I like every week. I will also send you the $5 a day investing plan, which will change your life. It's going to change your family forever. You're talking about generational wealth, easily built in a way that can be done by a 5-year-old. Also, I'm going to send you a list of AI stocks that I love. I'm going to send you a training I did on how to make money without working. So there'll be plenty of stuff coming to you, and I'll keep on just feeding you good information and making your life better. And I hope that these conversations benefit you. I know I get a little bit wordy, and I hope that's okay. But I figure if it's a podcast, then people talk on podcasts, and they talk a lot. And hopefully I'm saying something interesting enough for us to keep on listening to each other. So have a good day, everybody. God bless you. And I will see you soon. And take care. Be good.